The Galactic Council chamber looked like someone had designed it specifically to make you feel insignificant. Vaulted ceilings that stretched up into artificial starlight, crystalline pillars that hummed with ancient power, and roughly 300 seats arranged in concentric circles, each one occupied by an alien, who probably thought their species was the protagonist of the universe. Marcus Webb, Earth's freshly minted ambassador, sat in the human delegation's spot, way in the back, naturally, and contemplated the very real possibility that he might die of boredom before the session ended. "Order! Order!" Chancellor Vorgath slammed his six-fingered hand on the podium. He was a Kralix, which meant he looked like someone had crossed a lion with a tank and given it a military uniform. "We face an unprecedented crisis!" Marcus perked up slightly. "Finally, something interesting. 3 solar cycles ago," Vorgath continued, his mane bristling dramatically, "a mining expedition on the abandoned colony of Theta 7 unearthed an artifact of immense power. Our analysts believe it could destabilize entire star systems." A hologram flickered to life above the central platform, showing what appeared to be a metallic cylinder, maybe 30 centimeters long, with various markings along its surface. Professor Klebe, a Quilnari who looked like a nervous octopus in a lab coat, tentacled his way to the podium. "The energy readings are unlike anything in our databases. The potential for catastrophic destruction is, and I cannot stress this enough, astronomically high. We're talking planet-cracking levels of danger here, people." Marcus squinted at the hologram and felt his eyebrows climb toward his hairline. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me." "Therefore," Vorgath announced, "the Council has voted unanimously to seal this weapon in Vault Omega, beneath the Council headquarters. It will be locked away with every security protocol known to civilized species." Various alien heads nodded sagely. Someone in the Drelvik section made what Marcus assumed was their version of a solemn prayer. "Before we proceed with the burial ceremony," Vorgath said, "are there any objections?" Marcus raised his hand halfway, then thought better of it and lowered it again. The urge to laugh was nearly overwhelming, but he managed to keep his face neutral. "Nah, let them have their moment. This is going to be hilarious." "Seeing none," Vorgath declared, "we shall convene at Vault Omega in 1 standard hour. This artifact's reign of terror ends today." Marcus pulled out his datapad and sent a message to his assistant back on Earth. "You will not believe what just happened. Details later. Bring popcorn." Vault Omega was located 17 levels beneath the Council chambers, behind enough security checkpoints to make a paranoid dictator weep with envy. Marcus had been scanned, X-rayed, psychically probed, and DNA verified no fewer than 8 times on the way down. Security Chief Raxler, a towering screed whose exoskeleton gleamed like polished obsidian, stood guard at the vault entrance with the kind of rigid posture that suggested she'd never had a fun day in her entire life. "All personnel accounted for," she clicked in her species' staccato rhythm, "commencing final security protocols." The vault doors were massive, easily 10 meters tall, composed of some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. As they slowly ground open, Marcus had to admit it was pretty impressive. This was the kind of place you'd store a doomsday device, not what was actually inside that container. The ceremony chamber beyond was circular, with observation platforms rising in tiers around a central pedestal. Every major species in the Council had sent representatives, all wearing their most formal regalia. It looked like a funeral, which Marcus supposed it kind of was. "Distinguished members of the Galactic Council," Vorgath began, his voice echoing off the vault walls. "Today we gather to enter the most dangerous artifact ever discovered. Let this vault serve as a reminder of our commitment to peace and the preservation of life." Professor Klebe approached the pedestal where the artifact rested in a containment field. "I have calculated the various extinction scenarios this device could trigger. The number is, frankly, distressing. In the wrong hands, or the wrong appendages, or the wrong pseudopods, this could end civilization as we know it." "Which is why," Raxler interjected, "we have implemented 47 distinct security measures. Each species represented here will add their own unique seal to the vault. No single civilization will be able to access this chamber alone." Marcus leaned against a railing, watching aliens take turns doing their respective species' version of a safety lock. The Quilnari added a genetic recognition matrix. The Kralix installed a military-grade encryption algorithm. The Drelvik contributed some kind of psychic ward that made Marcus's teeth itch. It was all very solemn, very serious, very dramatic. Marcus checked his watch, then he checked it again. Then he wondered if anyone would notice if he took a nap. The Zephyrin Collective adds the seal of temporal mechanics, announced a being made of what looked like animated smoke. None shall bypass the flow of time itself to reach this weapon. Weapon. Right. Marcus bit the inside of his cheek to keep from grinning. The human delegation, Vorgath said, turning toward Marcus with what might have been pity or contempt. It was hard to tell with Kralik's expressions. Do your people wish to contribute a seal? I understand your technology is somewhat, primitive compared to most council members, but every gesture counts. Oh, we're good, Marcus said, waving a hand. You guys seem to have it covered. Vorgath nodded approvingly, probably thinking Marcus was showing appropriate humility. Then let us complete the sealing, the Chancellor announced. Once these doors close, the artifact will remain locked away for all eternity, guarded by the combined might of galactic civilization. The various holograms, force fields, and energy barriers activated in sequence, creating a light show that would have been spectacular if Marcus hadn't been timing how long this was all taking. 40 minutes. They'd been here 40 minutes, and they were finally getting to the actual door-closing part. The massive vault doors began to grind shut. Marcus cleared his throat. Actually, he said, his voice cutting through the ceremonial atmosphere like a knife through butter. Before you seal that, I should probably mention something. Every eye, optical sensor, and psychic perception organ in the chamber turned toward him. That thing you're burying? Marcus gestured at the vault. Yeah, that belongs to humanity. I'm going to need it back. The silence that followed Marcus' statement was the kind of profound quiet you usually only get in the vacuum of space, or right before someone says something incredibly stupid at a family dinner. Then all hell broke loose. What? Vorgath's roar rattled the vault chamber. Impossible! Kleeb's tentacles flailed in distress. Humans couldn't possibly have created something with these energy signatures. Your species barely achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Security breach! Raxla's exoskeleton plating flared outward in threat display mode. No one moves until we've established what's happening here. Marcus held up both hands in a calming gesture, which probably looked mocking given the small smile he couldn't quite suppress. Okay, everyone take a breath. Or, whatever your species does. Absorb nutrients through your skin, filter air through your gills, whatever works. Ambassador Webb, Vorgath said, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl, are you claiming that your species, which the Council has repeatedly assessed as barely qualifying for interstellar status, created a weapon of mass destruction that predates your own spaceflight capability? Well, when you put it that way, it sounds ridiculous, Marcus said, but yeah, basically. Kleeb's color had shifted from his usual blue-green to a sickly yellow. Do you understand what you're suggesting? The threat assessment for humanity would have to be recalculated from Category 4 to Category 11. Category 11, Ambassador. That's the category we reserve for species that commit casual genocide. The artifact was found on Theta 7, Raxla stated, pulling up a holographic star chart. That colony was abandoned 600 years ago, after the Trilaxian plague. It predates human spaceflight by 5 centuries. Your claim is chronologically impossible. Marcus pulled out his datapad. Actually, Theta 7 was originally established as a human colony ship that went off course. The Trilaxians found it abandoned about 600 years ago and assumed they'd discovered it first. Classic case of not checking the property records. Preposterous! Vorgath slammed his fist on the railing. You expect us to believe that humans were traveling to other star systems 600 years before you officially achieved interstellar flight? Oh no, that ship never made it. Total disaster. Navigation error, faulty cryostasis, the works. Everyone on board died, and the ship drifted until it crashed on Theta 7. Marcus scrolled through his datapad. See, the thing is, We only recently found the mission logs when we were cataloging old pre-spaceflight archives. Bunch of historians got very excited about the whole lost colony angle. He tapped a few buttons and projected his own hologram, a document covered in what looked like ancient Earth script. This is the manifest for the colony ship Aspiration, launched in Earth, year 2247. And if you cross-reference the hull signatures with the wreckage on Theta 7, Marcus pulled up another image. Perfect match. That's our ship, which makes everything on it, legally speaking, human property. Even if that's true, Klebe interjected, his tentacles knotting together nervously, it doesn't explain how this weapon exists. Your people shouldn't have had this technology even then. Marcus's grin widened. Who said it was a weapon? You could have heard a pin drop, or, in this case, heard a Drelvik's telepathic gasp of confusion. The energy readings, Klebe stammered. The molecular destabilization patterns, the quantum fluctuations, everything about this artifact screams danger. Yeah, about that, Marcus said, thoroughly enjoying himself now. What exactly did your scans tell you it does? It generates a focused energy field capable of disrupting atomic bonds at a molecular level. Raxler read from her security report. Theoretical applications include demolition, warfare, and theoretically, planetary destruction if properly scaled. Uh-huh. And did you at any point consider just turning it on to see what happens? Turn it on? Klebe looked like he might faint, which was impressive considering he didn't have conventional biology. Are you mad? The risk of cascading energy feedback alone could make a really nice cup of coffee, Marcus finished. That's a thermal regulator. Specifically, it's a camping thermal regulator from the Aspiration's emergency supplies. Top of the line for 2247. Could heat water, cook food, sterilize medical equipment. Really versatile piece of kit. The silence this time was even more profound. A camping device? Vorgath's voice came out as barely a whisper. Yeah, but we sent colony ships with pretty robust survival gear back then. That's a Coleman Quantum Heater 3000. Retailed for about 200 credits. My grandfather had one just like it. Klebe's color had progressed from yellow to a shade of purple that suggested either rage or a complete mental breakdown. We've spent 3 solar cycles analyzing this. We've had the Council's top scientists examining the energy matrix. We nearly started an interstellar incident with the Zephron Collective over who got to study it first. And now you've built the galaxy's most secure vault around a piece of camping equipment, Marcus added helpfully. Which, I hate to be that guy, but I really do need back. It's technically human cultural heritage now. The Historical Society has been very insistent. Absolutely not, Vorgath stated flatly. Marcus had been escorted, politely but firmly, to a conference room adjacent to the vault. The Chancellor, Professor Klebe, and Security Chief Raxler sat across from him, looking like a tribunal deciding his fate, which, considering galactic politics, they might have been. Ambassador Webb, Vorgath continued, his tone suggesting he was trying very hard to be diplomatic. Surely you can understand our position. We've invested significant resources into securing this, thermal regulator. To simply hand it over would be following basic property law, yeah? Marcus interrupted. Look, I get it. This is embarrassing. You guys threw a whole ceremony and everything. Very moving speeches. But it's still ours. Klebe's tentacles writhed in what Marcus had learned meant the Quilnari equivalent of a migraine. Perhaps we could offer compensation. The Council has considerable resources. We could provide your species with technology, trade agreements, a seat on the Science Directorate. We already have a seat on the Science Directorate. Earth got it last year, remember? A better seat, Klebe amended desperately, with actual voting rights. Tempting, but no. I just want the camping heater back. Raxler leaned forward, her exoskeleton clicking thoughtfully. Ambassador, let me be direct. The political ramifications of this situation are complex. If word spreads that the Council buried a human camping device in our maximum security vault, our credibility will be damaged. Yeah, I can see how that would be awkward for you. Therefore, she continued, we propose a compromise. The device remains sealed in the vault. We acknowledge human ownership in the official records. but it stays contained and we all agree to never speak of this incident again. Marcus pretended to consider it, tapping his fingers on the table. Counter-proposal. You give it back. I promise not to mention the 47 security measures to anyone, and we call it a day. Out of the question, Vorgath barked. The vault is sealed with protocols from 17 different civilizations. The diplomatic nightmare of unsealing it would be... Look, Vorgath, buddy, here's the thing. Marcus pulled up another document on his datapad. According to the Treaty of Proxima, which the Council ratified 80 years ago, any artifacts found on abandoned vessels remain the property of the originating species. Theta 7, as we've established, contains an abandoned human vessel. That makes everything on it, including my camping heater, human property. The treaty has provisions for items deemed dangerous to galactic security, Raxler countered. Sure does. Specifically, it defines dangerous items as actual weapons, controlled substances, or technology that poses a clear and present threat to civilian populations. Marcus grinned. A coffee maker doesn't qualify, no matter how scary your scientists thought it was. Klebe made a sound like a deflating balloon. We performed 3 months of analysis on a camping heater from the 23rd century. That's on you, Professor. Vorgath stood abruptly, his considerable bulk making the gesture impressive. Even if you're technically correct about ownership, do you have any idea what it will take to unseal that vault? Every species that contributed a security protocol will need to send representatives. It could take weeks. Or, Marcus said cheerfully, you could acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, you guys overreacted a tiny bit, and we could skip all the bureaucracy. I've got the override codes for Earth security systems. That's one seal down. And since the thermal regulator is technically human property being unlawfully detained, I'm pretty sure galactic law says you have to return it within a standard day or face penalties. He wasn't entirely sure about that last part, but he delivered it with enough confidence that nobody challenged him. Raxler's exoskeleton plates shifted in what might have been a sigh. He's right about the detention clause. If the item isn't designated as contraband and ownership is established, withholding it becomes a legal violation after 26 standard hours. We could designate it as contraband, Klebe suggested weakly. Based on what evidence? Marcus asked. You'd have to prove it's dangerous, which means demonstrating what it actually does, which means turning it on, which means making coffee in your super vault and admitting that you were wrong. Vorgath slowly sat back down, looking like he'd aged several years in the past hour. You're enjoying this, aren't you, Ambassador? Little bit, yeah. The Chancellor exchanged glances with Klebe and Raxler. Some kind of silent communication passed between them, probably telepathic or pheromone-based or whatever high-level officials used when they didn't want to say things out loud. Finally, Vorgath spoke. Fine. We'll unseal the vault. You'll retrieve your device. And in exchange, Earth will agree to provide detailed specifications for all human equipment found on Theta 7, so we can avoid future misunderstandings. In deal, Marcus said, extending his hand. Vorgath looked at the offered hand like it might bite him, then reluctantly shook it. However, the Chancellor added, we're doing this quietly, no press, no announcements, no detailed explanations about what was in the vault. You want to cover up the galaxy's most embarrassing security threat assessment, Marcus translated. Precisely. Works for me. The Historical Society just wants the artifact. They don't care about the drama. Raxler stood, her military bearing returning. I'll begin the unsealing procedures. This is going to take at least 6 hours, even with expedited protocols. I'll wait, Marcus said. Not like I've got anywhere else to be. 6 hours turned into 8, because apparently getting representatives from 17 different species to simultaneously input their unlock codes was like herding cats. Very important, politically complicated, extremely dignified cats. Marcus spent most of the time reading a book on his datapad and occasionally watching the alien officials scurry around in organized chaos. Vorgath looked like he was developing an ulcer, assuming Kralix could get ulcers. Klebe had gone through what appeared to be 3 different color changes, settling on a resigned grey-blue. Raxler just looked tired. The Drelvik Collective has confirmed their unlock sequence, one of the technicians announced. That's 16 of 17. We're waiting on the Zephron. The Zephron are always late. someone muttered. Something about existing in multiple time frames simultaneously. Marcus glanced up from his book. You know, you could have just called me 6 hours ago when this was done instead of making me wait here. Protocol demands all parties be present during unsealing procedures, Raxler replied automatically. She'd said this at least 4 times already. Finally, a being of animated smoke materialized in the chamber. Apologies for the delay. I was in 3 different meetings across 4 time frames. Just enter your code, Vorgath growled. The Zephron representative did something that involved flickering in and out of existence while touching a control panel, and the final security measure disengaged with a satisfying click. All seals removed, Raxler announced, beginning vault door sequence. The massive doors groaned open with the kind of dramatic slowness that suggested someone had designed them specifically for maximum theatrical impact. Lights flickered on inside the vault, illuminating the pedestal where the thermal regulator sat in its containment field. Everyone took an instinctive step back, everyone except Marcus, who strolled in like he was walking into a convenience store. Ambassador, please exercise caution, Klebe called out. Even if it is a thermal device, we don't know if it's been damaged or if there are any residual energy. Marcus picked up the thermal regulator and turned it over in his hands. Looks fine to me. Little dusty, but that's 600 years for you. He pressed a button on the side. The device hummed to life with a soft blue glow. Every alien in the chamber flinched. Raxler's hand went to her sidearm. Klebe turned a shade of white that probably indicated he was about to pass out. Marcus held the thermal regulator up to the light, examining it. Yep, still works. That's Coleman quality for you, built to last. He walked over to a water dispenser in the corner of the observation area, because apparently even maximum security vaults needed hydration stations, and filled a cup. Then he held the thermal regulator over it. The water began to steam. See, Marcus said, taking a sip of the now hot water. Makes great coffee. Well, I don't actually have coffee beans, so this is just hot water, but you get the idea. Completely harmless. Unless you're really bad at handling hot beverages, in which case you might burn yourself, but that's a user error situation. Vorgath stared at the thermal regulator like it had personally betrayed him. That's it? It just heats water? And can cook food, sterilize equipment, and maintain optimal temperature in survival situations. Pretty versatile for 2247 tech. Marcus turned it off and tucked it under his arm. Now, if we're done here, I've got a historical society breathing down my neck about getting this logged into the cultural heritage database. Klebe had definitely passed out. 2 technicians were trying to revive him. Raxler holstered her weapon and stood at attention, though her exoskeleton had lost some of its rigidity. Ambassador Webb, you are free to leave with the device. All legal requirements have been fulfilled. Pleasure doing business with you, Chief. Marcus turned to Vorgath. Chancellor, always a delight. Let's never do this again. Vorgath said something in his native language that the translator diplomatically rendered as, I concur. As Marcus walked toward the exit, thermal regulator in hand, he couldn't resist turning back for one final comment. Oh, and guys, maybe next time you find something that scares you, just try reading the instruction manual first. Might save you some trouble. The walk back through the 17 levels of security checkpoints was considerably faster than the way down, mostly because every guard and technician was too stunned to do more than wave him through. The emergency council session convened 3 hours after Marcus left the building. He knew this because his datapad would not stop buzzing with notifications about diplomatic channels lighting up like a supernova. Ambassador Webb, his assistant's message read, The Council is requesting your presence at an urgent meeting regarding, and I quote, the human problem. Should I tell them you're unavailable? Marcus typed back, Tell them I'm available tomorrow afternoon. I've got to deliver this camping heater to the Historical Society first. Priorities. In the council chambers, the emergency session was going about as well as anyone could expect, which is to say it was a complete disaster. We need to reassess our entire evaluation system, Klebe was saying, his color cycling through agitated purples and oranges. If we mistook a camping device for a weapon of mass destruction. What else have we gotten wrong about Earth? The human admission application to full council membership, Vorgath said heavily, pulling up a document that had been languishing in committee for 5 years. We've been delaying it because we deemed their technology primitive. Perhaps we need to reconsider. Or perhaps, Raxler suggested, we need to reconsider what we define as primitive. The humans built a device 600 years ago that still functions perfectly today. How many of our civilizations can claim that kind of manufacturing quality? The Zephron representative flickered into existence. I've been reviewing other human artifacts we've catalogued. A significant number have been misclassified as weapons or dangerous technology. Such as? Vorgath asked, dreading the answer. Item 7734B, currently stored as a potential explosive device. It's actually a food preservation unit, item 9821A, flagged as a biological weapon. It's a gardening tool, item 3344C, designated as a psychotronic disruptor. It's a music player. Kleeb's tentacles drooped. We've been confiscating their music players? In our defense, Raxler said, the energy signature from the speakers was quite aggressive. Because humans like their music loud, the Zephron noted. I've created a new classification system. Items should be analyzed not just for what they could theoretically do, but for what they're designed to do. Novel concept, I know. Vorgath rubbed his temples. How do we prevent this from becoming public knowledge? We don't, Raxler said bluntly. Word is already spreading through diplomatic channels. By tomorrow, every species in the Council will know that we buried a Coleman quantum heater 3000 in Vault Omega. We could frame it as an abundance of caution, Kleeb suggested weakly. Or we could accept that we made a mistake and adjust accordingly, the Zephron replied. The humans seem to find this amusing rather than insulting. That's actually a positive sign for future relations. Vorgath pulled up Earth's Council membership application and stared at it for a long moment. Then, with the air of someone accepting the inevitable, he pressed the approval button. Earth is granted full Council membership, he announced, with all associated rights and privileges. If we're going to be embarrassed by humans on a regular basis, they might as well be official members when they do it. Meanwhile, Marcus stood in the Earth Historical Society's archive room, handing over the thermal regulator to an enthusiastic curator who looked like she might actually cry with joy. This is incredible, Ambassador. A functioning piece of pre-spaceflight colony equipment. Do you know what this means for our understanding of early interstellar missions? That we were really optimistic and really bad at navigation? Marcus suggested. Well, yes, but also that we built things to last. This will be the centerpiece of our new exhibition on the Aspiration mission. She cradled the device like it was made of spun gold. How did you convince the Council to release it? I asked nicely, Marcus said with a completely straight face. His datapad buzzed again. This time it was from Vorgath directly. Ambassador Webb, Earth's application for full Council membership has been approved. Congratulations. Also, the Council requests that you submit a comprehensive list of common human items to avoid future incidents. Please prioritize this task. Marcus smiled and typed back. Sure thing. I'll send over a catalogue. Should I include the toasters, or are you going to classify those as planetary bombardment devices? There was a long pause before Vorgath's reply came through. Please just send the catalogue. 2 weeks later, Marcus sat in his new office in the Council building, now sporting a nameplate that read, Ambassador Webb, Full Council Representative. The view overlooked the artificial gardens, and he had to admit it was pretty nice. His assistant poked her head in. Ambassador, you have a meeting with the Relic delegation in 20 minutes. Something about reviewing the threat assessment protocols. Let me guess. They want to make sure we're not secretly planning galactic domination with our kitchen appliances. That's the implication, yes. Marcus pulled up his presentation, which he titled Understanding Human Technology, a guide for the perpetually concerned. The first slide showed a toaster with the caption, It makes bread crispy. That's it. That's all it does. His datapad buzzed with a message from his supervisor back on Earth. How's the new position treating you? Marcus looked at his presentation, thought about the thermal regulator incident, considered the fact that the Council was now genuinely worried about human toasters, and typed back his response. They buried our camping equipment in their apocalypse vault. I'd say we're memorable. He hit send, grabbed his coffee, made with a regular Earth coffee maker that he'd been asked to register with Council security, and headed to his meeting. Behind him, through the window, the Council chambers gleamed in the artificial sunlight, housing hundreds of species from across the galaxy, all trying to figure out whether humanity was brilliantly dangerous or dangerously mundane. The answer, as Marcus had learned, was yes. And honestly, that was exactly where he wanted Earth to be.